This is the 2021 Ducati SuperSport 950S. It's Ducati's answer to having a supersport bike for the road, combining everyday usability and practicality with the traditional Ducati DNA. Now in this update, Ducati has given it a new suite of electronics, sharper styling, and it still goes like a Ducati. And at Rs 15.49 lakh for this Arctic white paint in the SuperSport 950S, it is also priced like a Ducati. So if you're looking for a Ducati to ride every single day on the road, it really doesn't get much better than this.
You're watching the autoX YouTube channel. You can also get your daily dose of all things automotive on our website, autox.com, and follow us on social media. Don't forget to check out our monthly magazine and make sure to hit the bell and subscribe button so you don't miss a thing.
Well, I don't agree with that. Of course, the SuperSport S, as good as it is, it's not the best Ducati for the road, because I think this one, the new Monster, is the actual deal. This is a motorcycle that you can ride virtually every day. And there's a huge difference between these two in terms of pricing, but this one gets the same engine. It's much lighter, it has got a new frame, and technically, this is a more modern motorcycle. So, everything considered, I think this is the best bike for the road, and this is the best Ducati that money can buy if you want to buy a motorcycle for everyday usage, for probably weekend rides. This is the motorcycle that you should buy. So Karan, I know you love the SuperSport S, but I think the Monster, I think it's a better deal.
See, I agree that it's a better deal, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really look like a Ducati. Now, the earlier Monster, it looks smashing with that exposed trellis frame. This, on the other hand, looks like a proper Ducati, especially with the updated front end. It looks like a baby Panigale, and I really think in this Arctic white livery, the SuperSport 950S really turns heads. We've been on the shoot together, and the amount of people that have asked for pictures with this versus asking for pictures with that, there's not even a comparison.
Well, I agree to that, because the thing is, the Monster, of course, the old Monster used to be like a kick-ass motorcycle, but that old trellis frame is now gone, and that was a signature dish of the Monster. So again, you have to think logically, because this is a newer motorcycle in terms of mechanicals, in terms of technology. Because the SuperSport S, it was first launched in 2017, and it was based on the old Monster. So it has the same frame which the old Monster had, the trellis frame. And this one has a new frame which is derived from the Panigale V2 or the Panigale V4. So it has that sport bike frame. It is a more modern motorcycle. It is 2022, whereas this is the same old motorcycle. It's been refined. And no arguing, it definitely looks like $1 million. It is a proper Ducati, and even when I look at it, I think it is quite a looker. And the Monster, yeah, of course, it looks quite average now because it has lost its DNA. But overall, once you live with this motorcycle, and I know we swapped bikes, and the first day you're riding the SuperSport, you're quite impressed. Next day he rode the, he'll tell you, next day he rode the Monster, and you were telling me that this feels more natural, this is more suited for everyday riding. So tell the audience more about that, because that was your choice, right? That was your update.
So in terms of the engine, both these bikes have the same 937cc L-twin engine. They both have 6-speed gearboxes, and they both perform quite similarly on the road. Of course, the Monster is lighter, so that initial go is a lot crazier, a lot more wild. The Monster feels wild right from the bottom end, while the SuperSport is a little bit more linear in that sense. But that said, both these bikes are very tractable, very easy to ride. Of course, this is a slightly more committed riding position, so you do feel the stress on your arms, especially if you're doing a very long commute, but it is still fairly comfortable for the kind of bike that it looks. The Monster, on the other hand, is super easy to ride. You can really ride it every single day. The clutch is a little bit heavy, and both these bikes do heat up in traffic, but aside from that, the Monster is actually a fantastic daily super bike.
Yeah, and the other thing is, of course, in terms of handling also, we felt that the Monster, I rode this motorcycle earlier at the launch, so we were riding it on the track. It's not meant for the track, but still on the track, I was really impressed with this motorcycle, because the old Monster, or even the SuperSport for that matter, it has that top heaviness still. So this is more stable, but when you're doing quick direction changes, or when you're riding it in traffic, there's a gap, you want to exploit it, well, this motorcycle, it feels like a KTM 390, probably better than that. The only problem I had with the Monster, even at the track or even when riding daily, I think it didn't feel as stable as the SuperSport. Again, it has the top heaviness. It kind of helps it because around corners, it is quite stable. It has got that mid-corner stability. which the Monster, of course, it is a great bike, but it is twitchy because of its short wheelbase and a sharper rake. So you have to be really careful with the Monster. It takes time getting used to. But at the same time, it also makes it quite sharp and it's more agile. And I think it is also more exciting in the way it tackles corners. But on the flip side, on highway speeds, I think again, this has wind protection. So if you are someone who is going to tour a lot, well, the SuperSport S will make more sense. Having said that, this does crazy speeds as well. And so yeah, in terms of covering ground, I think this is just as capable. But yeah, in terms of comfort, I think the SuperSport S has an edge over this.
And that's mainly down to this windscreen. So this is a new windscreen. It's also adjustable. So for touring at high speeds, you really don't feel that wind blast, especially if you tuck in a little bit. It's actually very comfortable on the highway. And both these bikes in 6th gear, you can be doing 100, 120. These bikes are still like half asleep. They don't even need to come out of bed to make overtakes on the highway. These are more than capable for touring, both these bikes actually. But like we said, the SuperSport is the better choice if you are planning to head out on the highway very often.
And having said that, the quality of these motorcycles it's really kick-ass. I mean, the quality, it's typical Ducati levels. Then you have electronics also. We think both the bikes are evenly matched in terms of electronics. They have got wheelie control, they have got launch control, they have multiple modes. And the electronics, they work in the background all the time. And that's the great part about Ducatis, because you can be silly with these motorcycles. You can just open the throttle every time, but it won't throw you off. So that's again a great thing about both these motorcycles. But at the end of the day, of course, if you have to choose one, and I'm categorically saying that if you have to choose one to ride every day or just for weekend rides, which one would you pick?
So I told Shivang this before we started rolling the cameras, but even though the SuperSport 950S looks absolutely brilliant and it's what my heart would say, it's not the choice I would make if I was to ride it every single day. It's not a commitment I want to make every single day to ride in a slightly more aggressive position. Of course, if you're planning to ride it 3 days a week, maybe even 4 days a week, this is more than comfortable. But if you're planning to ride a Ducati every single day, ride it to work, ride it in traffic, ride it in all sorts of situations, the Monster is fantastic. It's going to put a smile on your face every single morning, every single evening. By the time you leave from work, you'll forget all your troubles. You'll probably be scared with how fast it is. And it is really a fantastic everyday Ducati.
Again, we started off by saying that the SuperSport S is not probably the perfect bike for the road. But still, having said that, it has that draw because it looks like a Ducati. It looks like a Panigale on the road. Anyone can miss it for a Panigale. So in that regard, of course, if you want that Ducati style, that Italian flair, well, the Monster is no match to the SuperSport. But at the same time, I think in this spec, this is the S version and it costs what, 16.5?
So this is 15.49 lakhs for the 950S. And this Arctic white paint scheme is 20,000 rupees extra. I think it's worth it because it looks smashing in this color.
And there is the standard version as well, which is for 13.5, right? Yeah.
So the standard SuperSport 950 is 13.49 lakhs. Now, what's the difference between the standard and the S? Basically, you get Olin suspension front and back. It's fully adjustable and you get this seat cover. So if you don't plan to have anyone sitting at the back, it makes the bike look even racier, even better. Of course, this is a cover, so you can take it off and have another person sitting in the back. But that is a significant price difference, at least for this S model. It's a difference of about 4 lakhs, 3.5, 4 lakhs.
So yeah, the Monster doesn't get adjustable suspension. The Monster comes with standard setting and you can't really fiddle with it apart from the rear shock, which is preload adjustable. But you don't actually need it because you're not going to do track days with this motorcycle. And I think overall, in terms of ride quality also, of course, it has got Olin, so it feels a little more plush. But this is also quite good and this is meant for all sort of road conditions. So I think in that regard also the Monster has all the bases covered. And my problem with the SuperSport is I absolutely love it, but at 16 or 15.5, I think it's priced too close to the Panigale V2. Now last year we rode the Panigale V2 and I think even on the road, it was not much of a compromise. On the track, it is a proper tool, but on the road also it felt very comfortable. It's not that bad because see, you are buying a SuperSport motorcycle because you like the styling. So you can commit to that. So in that regard, I think the V2 was also just as good. So you just have to spend a little more. You get a lot more power and you get a motorcycle which is usable and you get a proper Ducati sports bike. SuperSport S, it is a happy compromise, no denying that. But if you want a sports bike, I think I'd rather go for the Panigale V2, which is just 2 lakhs more and it has a lot of kit on offer.
Ducati SuperSport 950S is actually a bit of an odd child. It's neither here nor there. It's not as comfortable as the Monster. It's not as committed or as racy as a Panigale. So it sort of leaves it in the middle, and it's actually priced closer to the Panigale V2 than it is to the Monster. So in that regard, if you are looking for a fully faired bike, like you said, the Panigale makes sense. And one thing you forgot to add is that if you live in an area with a lot of sharp speed breakers, there's not even a choice here. The Monster is the one to go. It has fantastic ground clearance. The SuperSport's fairing sort of scrapes on some of the higher speed breakers. But aside from that, both these bikes handle potholes very well. The suspension, like Shivang said, is a little more comfortable on this, but because you're sitting in a more aggressive position, potholes do put a little more strain on your arms. But aside from that, these two are great for most of Indian road conditions.
Yeah, and the last but not least, and I think this is a deal breaker for me, the SuperSport S is still a 2017 motorcycle. All the Ducati motorcycles right now, they've been updated. So every Ducati motorcycle right now, from the Monster to probably the Multistrada and even the Panigales, everything has this new frame. Whereas this is still the old trellis frame. So in terms of design, probably it stands out. But in terms of technology, this is a more modern motorcycle. And given the fact that the SuperSport S is based on the Monster or the previous gen Monster, well, it is probably headed for an update where it will get the same frame. And then, of course, I think it will be the perfect motorcycle, perfect Ducati for the road. But for the time being, I think I will stick with the Monster, despite the fact that it doesn't look as special as it used to be. But I think between the two of these, it is the Monster that we liked more.